What if I told you your biggest failure could become the reason you succeed? Sounds crazy, right? But stick with me, because sometimes the lowest moment of your life is exactly where the comeback begins. Hey, loving listeners, welcome back to Mind-Blowing Motive. Let's be real. Failure sucks. It's painful, it's embarrassing, and it can break your confidence like nothing else. Maybe you've tried chasing a dream, only to crash and burn. Maybe you gave your all to something, a business, a relationship, an opportunity, and it still fell apart. And now, there's that voice in your head whispering, "You're not good enough." But let me tell you something you need to hear. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of it. Every great story you admire, from the legends of business to the heroes of life, includes chapters filled with rejection, loss, and heartbreak. This episode isn't about pretending failure doesn't hurt. It does. But it's also about realizing you're not stuck there. You're not broken beyond repair. You're just in the middle of your story, not the end. Today, I'm sharing 7 powerful lessons that helped me turn failure into fuel. Lessons that will show you how to rebuild yourself, not just stronger, but smarter, wiser, and more unstoppable than ever before. So if you've fallen, if you're hurting, if you've ever felt like giving up, don't scroll away. This could be the moment everything begins to change. Lesson 1. Accept the failure. You know what hurts the most about failure? It's not just the fact that something didn't work out. It's the shame that comes with it. That quiet, crushing feeling like you are the failure. It seeps into your mind and wraps itself around your identity. Suddenly, you're not just someone who failed, you are a failure. I get it. I've been there too. Let me take you back to a moment in my life that I don't often talk about. A few years ago, I had this big dream. I poured everything into it: time, money, energy, my heart. I sacrificed sleep, skipped family gatherings, and told myself, this is it. This is going to work. And then, it didn't. It collapsed. Not in a slow, graceful way. No, it crashed loudly and publicly. I lost everything I had built. I watched my efforts crumble, my confidence shatter, and my hope evaporate. I remember lying in bed, staring at the ceiling in the dark, thinking, what's wrong with me? Why can't I get it right? And then came the hardest part: accepting it. You see, most of us tried to escape failure. We pretend it didn't happen. We shift blame. We scroll through our phones, drown in distractions, or put on a fake smile like nothing's wrong. Because accepting failure feels like accepting weakness. But the truth, accepting failure is not weakness. It's strength. It's the first courageous step towards healing, learning, and growing. When I finally stopped fighting the truth, something strange happened. I felt a weird sense of peace, not happiness, but peace. I admitted to myself, I failed. Just that. No excuses, no denial, no drama. I said it out loud in my room, like I was confessing to the universe. I failed. It was raw, it was real, but it was honest. And honesty is powerful. Why is acceptance so important? Because you can't change something you won't face. You can't learn from a lesson you refuse to acknowledge. And you definitely can't heal from something you keep pretending didn't happen.
Think of it like this. Imagine you've got a cut on your hand. It hurts, but instead of cleaning it, you cover it with a bandage and pretend it's fine. You keep using that hand like nothing's wrong. Guess what happens? It gets worse. It gets infected. The pain grows deeper. Why? Because you didn't deal with it. Failure is just like that. The moment you accept it, really face it, you open the door to healing. You stop hiding. You stop running. You allow yourself to breathe. And for the first time, you get to say, okay, this happened, but it's not the end of me. Now, don't get me wrong, acceptance doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean you stop dreaming or settle for less. Acceptance just means you're ready to start again. But this time from a place of truth, not illusion. And here's something else no one talks about. When you accept your failure, you take your power back. Because as long as you're denying it, blaming others, or running away, the failure controls you. It owns your thoughts. It makes you bitter. It feeds your fear. But the second you say, yes, I failed, and that's okay, you're in charge again. It's like looking failure in the eye and saying, you may have knocked me down, but you don't get to define who I am. One of the most inspiring people I ever met was a young man who failed his college entrance exam, not once, but 4 times. He was devastated. Everyone told him to give up. Maybe college isn't for you, they said. But he didn't pretend he passed. He didn't hide in shame. He said, I failed, and now I know what not to do. That guy eventually made it into college on his 5th attempt, and today he's a motivational speaker, helping others believe in second chances. Why? Because he accepted his failure and used it as a foundation, not a finish line. So let me ask you right now, what are you avoiding? What failure are you pretending didn't happen? What truth are you afraid to face? Take a moment. Say it to yourself. I failed, and it's okay. Let that sink in, because you're still breathing, you're still standing, and that means the story isn't over yet. This is just one chapter. The next one, that's up to you, and it starts with acceptance. Lesson 2. Reflect deeply. After accepting failure, the next most powerful thing you can do is take a long, honest look in the mirror. Not just to see what went wrong, but to understand why it went wrong. This part is hard, really hard, because reflection isn't about blame, it's about truth. And truth, when it's about yourself, can sting a little. I remember sitting alone at my desk the week after my big failure. My mind kept going in circles. What if I had worked harder, made better choices, trusted my gut instead of others, taken that one opportunity instead of the other? The questions were endless. I felt like a detective trying to solve a case, except the case was me. And slowly, I realized something. My failure didn't happen overnight. It was a series of ignored signs, rushed decisions, and misplaced confidence. But I would have never seen that if I didn't stop to reflect. You see, most people skip this step. They jumped from one mistake to the next without ever asking themselves what really happened. They distract themselves with noise, work, social media, endless activity, anything to avoid sitting alone with their thoughts. But here's the truth. Healing happens in silence. Growth happens in stillness. And sometimes the only way forward is to pause and look backward. Reflecting deeply doesn't mean punishing yourself. It means being honest without being cruel. It's asking yourself, what part did I play in this? And what can I learn from it? Maybe you trusted the wrong person. Maybe you rushed a decision. Maybe you ignored your intuition. Or maybe you simply weren't ready. And that's okay too. But if you don't reflect, you'll keep repeating the same cycle and calling it bad luck.
One thing I did that helped was journaling. I opened a blank notebook and just started writing. No filter, no structure, just raw thoughts. At first, it was a mess. My emotions were everywhere. But the more I wrote, the more clarity I found. I saw patterns. I saw fears I didn't know I had. I realized I was chasing success for the wrong reasons, to impress others, to feel valuable, to prove I wasn't a nobody. That truth hit hard, but it also set me free. Because reflection brings you face to face with your real self, not the version you show the world, but the one that lives quietly inside you, the scared you, the unsure you, the part of you that secretly wonders if you're enough. And when you meet that version of yourself with compassion, something amazing happens. You stop running, you stop pretending, and you start healing. There's a story I heard once that stuck with me. It was about a woman who kept getting fired from every job she worked. She blamed her bosses, her coworkers, the economy, everything except herself. One day, after her 5th firing, she sat in her car and just cried. Then she did something she'd never done before. She asked herself, "What if it's me?" That question led her on a journey of deep reflection. She realized she had a problem with authority. She hated routine, and she wasn't meant for a 9-to-5 life. Today, she runs her own business, and she's never looked back. But that change didn't come from reading a book or hearing a motivational speech. It came from reflection. So many of us are afraid to reflect because we don't want to face our own flaws. We're scared of what we might find. But here's the secret. Your flaws don't make you weak. They make you human. And when you recognize them, you take away their power. You stop being controlled by them and start learning from them. Reflection also helps you separate your mistake from your identity. Just because you failed at something doesn't mean you are a failure. That's a huge difference. Failure is what happened. It's not who you are. But unless you take the time to reflect, you'll keep wearing your past like a label, and that label will limit you. Take some time, even just 10 minutes a day, to ask yourself, what did I learn? What would I do differently next time? What am I proud of, even in the middle of my failure? You'd be surprised how much insight lives inside you. It's just waiting for you to listen. Reflecting deeply is not about getting all the answers. It's about asking the right questions. It's about being brave enough to sit with your past without letting it define your future. And most of all, it's about giving yourself the chance to rise, not as the perfect version of you, but as a wiser, stronger, more self-aware version. Because the truth is, failure doesn't break you, it reveals you. And what you do with that truth is entirely up to you. Lesson 3. Reset your mindset. After you've accepted your failure and reflected deeply on what went wrong, there's one more critical step before moving forward, and that's resetting your mindset. Because what goes on in your mind shapes everything that happens in your life. You can't build a new chapter with the same broken thoughts that brought you down in the last one. When failure happens, your mind becomes a battlefield. Doubt, fear, and shame all try to take control. You start believing the lies, that you're not capable, that success isn't for you, that it's too late. Those thoughts might seem small at first, but they're powerful. They slowly eat away your confidence and build a wall between you and your potential. That's why resetting your mindset is so important. It means choosing, deliberately, consciously, to stop feeding your brain those lies. It means replacing the voice that says I can't with one that says I will. You may not know how yet, and that's okay, but the belief has to be planted first, like a seed. No one grows a tree by staring at the soil and doubting it. You plant, you water, you trust the process. I remember one morning, a few weeks after my failure, I looked in the mirror and said something that felt strange at first. I'm still worthy. It was just 3 words, but they felt like lifting 100 pounds off my chest. I didn't fully believe it yet, but I kept saying it every day. Over time, it became a part of me. That's the thing about mindset. The more you repeat the right things, the more your brain starts to believe them. Think about it. How often do we talk ourselves down? I'm so stupid. I'll never make it. Why do I even try? Now imagine if a friend spoke to you like that. Would you let them? Probably not. So why let yourself? Your inner voice should be your biggest supporter, not your harshest critic.
Resetting your mindset also means letting go of past identities. Maybe you used to be the person who always gave up. Maybe you were the one who failed over and over. But that was then. You're not who you were. You're who you choose to become. And every day gives you a chance to rewrite that story. One powerful mindset shift is moving from I failed to I learned. It's simple, but it changes everything. Failure becomes less like a weight and more like a teacher. Instead of carrying guilt, you carry wisdom. Instead of running from mistakes, you start collecting lessons. And with every lesson, you grow stronger. Resetting your mindset also means surrounding yourself with positive influences. The people around you matter a lot. If you're constantly hearing, you can't, you shouldn't, or you'll never, it's hard to believe in yourself. But when you're around people who lift you up, who challenge you to rise higher, your mindset naturally follows. There's a story of a man who spent years struggling with addiction. He tried everything to break free, but always ended up falling back. One day, he joined a support group where everyone treated him not as a failure, but as a fighter. That shift in how others saw him helped him see himself differently. And that's what gave him the strength to finally change his life. Not because he suddenly became stronger, but because he began to believe he was. Your mindset is like a lens. If the lens is dirty, everything looks dark, blurry, and hopeless. But clean the lens, reset your mindset, and suddenly the same world looks different, full of possibility, full of chances, full of light. It's not magic. It's not some overnight miracle. It's a daily decision, a choice to believe in yourself when it's hardest, a choice to silence the doubt and speak truth over your life, a choice to get up one more time even if your knees are shaking. So if your mind has been your biggest enemy lately, it's time to take your power back. You're not weak for struggling. You're strong for continuing. You're not broken. You're rebuilding. And the more you train your thoughts to align with your goals, the faster your actions will follow. Reset your mindset, and you'll reset your entire life. Lesson 4. Work with a new plan. Once you've accepted the failure, reflected on what went wrong, and reset your mindset, the next step is all about action. Because all the healing and self-awareness in the world won't matter much if you stay stuck in place. At some point, you have to rise, regroup, and get back to work, but this time with a new plan. One of the biggest mistakes people make after failing is trying to go back and do the same exact thing, the same exact way. They fall into this trap of thinking, if I just push harder, maybe this time it'll work. But the truth is, effort without adjustment is just spinning your wheels. If your plan didn't work the first time, chances are something in it needs to change. Maybe it's the goal itself. Maybe it's your method. Maybe it's the people you relied on. Whatever it is, something needs to shift. When I faced one of my biggest failures, I realized I couldn't just go back and repeat the same process. I had to reevaluate everything. I sat down and wrote out the entire journey, what worked, what didn't, where I hesitated, and where I got distracted. Then I began to build again, brick by brick, but with a better foundation. I didn't throw out the whole dream. I just approached it with more clarity and strategy. Working with a new plan doesn't mean you have to abandon your passion or completely start over. Sometimes it's just about tweaking your process. Maybe you need to slow down and learn more before rushing in. Maybe you need a mentor. Maybe you need better habits or tighter discipline. A new plan means thinking smarter, not just harder. Take Thomas Edison, for example. The guy failed over 1,000 times before inventing the light bulb. When someone asked him how it felt to fail so much, he said, "I didn't fail 1,000 times. The light bulb was an invention with 1,000 steps." That's the mindset of someone who always works with a new plan. It's not about how many times you fall, it's about how many new ways you're willing to rise.
A new plan also requires you to be honest about what's really possible right now. You may have huge dreams, and that's amazing, but maybe you need to break them down into smaller, achievable steps. Start small, but stay consistent, because small wins build confidence, and confidence fuels momentum. I remember a friend of mine who failed to launch a fitness business. He had this big plan, a fancy website, branded gear, expensive equipment, but no real community or marketing knowledge. He went all in before laying the groundwork. When it failed, he was devastated. But instead of quitting, he shifted. He started offering free workouts at a local park. Slowly,
People joined. His plan wasn't flashy anymore, but it was effective. Within a year, he had more clients than he ever expected, all because he dared to build again, smarter this time. And sometimes a new plan means letting go of timelines. You may have thought success would come in 6 months, but what if it takes 2 years or 5? Would it still be worth it? The truth is, most people don't fail because they're incapable. They failed because they give up too soon. They tie their dreams to a deadline. When it doesn't happen fast enough, they call it quits. But real success requires patience. A new plan isn't just about changing your methods, it's about adjusting your mindset about time. There's also power in simplifying. When everything feels overwhelming after failure, simplify your plan. Cut the noise, focus on 1 or 2 core things. Make your plan doable, even if it feels small, because consistency beats intensity when it comes to rebuilding. And don't be afraid to ask for help. A new plan often means learning from people who've already been where you're trying to go. Mentorship, podcasts, books, courses, these are tools that help sharpen your plan and reduce unnecessary mistakes. You have every right to dream again. You have every right to plan again. But this time, do it with intention. Let your past guide you, not define you. Let your pain inform your progress, not interrupt it. The lessons you've learned were not wasted. They were earned. Use them. Build something better. Because you're not starting from scratch. You're starting from experience. Lesson 5. Never compare your journey. One of the most dangerous things you can do after failing is to look around and start comparing your life to everyone else's. You scroll through social media, see your friends traveling the world, launching businesses, getting promoted, getting married, and suddenly your own life feels like it's standing still. You tell yourself, they're winning, I'm losing, and just like that, your own journey starts to feel smaller, slower, and somehow not good enough. But let me remind you of something powerful. You're not behind. You're on your path. And your path was never meant to look like anyone else's. Comparison is the thief of joy, but it's also the thief of progress. Because the moment you start measuring your life against someone else's timeline, you stop appreciating your own growth. You stop seeing how far you've come. You forget that just a few weeks ago, you were lying in bed wondering if you'd ever get back up again. But here you are, healing, learning, trying. That matters. That's progress, and no one else's success can take that away from you. We all have different starting points, different challenges, and different dreams. What you see on the outside is never the full story. That person who seems to have it all together, you don't know the battles they're fighting silently. The ones who seem the happiest, they may have walked through darkness you couldn't even imagine. The ones who are succeeding now, maybe they failed quietly for years before anyone noticed them. That's the problem with comparison. It's always incomplete. You're comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel, and that's never fair. I remember when I was rebuilding myself after a major failure, I couldn't help but notice how many people around me seemed to be moving ahead. Friends were starting new projects, landing promotions, buying homes, and I was just trying to pick up the pieces. It made me feel small, like I was stuck while the world kept moving. But then one day, during a quiet walk, I realized something. I had no idea what was going on behind their smiles. I had no clue what their struggles were, what fears they carried, or what it had cost them to get where they were. I only knew my journey, and that's the only one I needed to focus on. You are not late, you are not too slow, you are not less than. You are exactly where you need to be to learn what you need to learn.
The truth is, comparison creates pressure. Pressure to be perfect, pressure to catch up, pressure to rush through the healing process. But growth is not a race.
It's not something you can measure with likes, followers, paychecks, or job titles. True growth happens quietly, in the way you speak to yourself, in how you handle setbacks, in how you show up even when it's hard. One of the most powerful mindset shifts I ever made was this: I celebrate others without questioning myself. Just because someone else is doing well doesn't mean I'm doing poorly. Their light doesn't dim mine. There's enough room for all of us to shine. Think of it like this. A flower never looks at the one next to it and says, I should bloom faster. It just blooms, in its own time, with its own color, at its own pace. You are no different. It's okay to be inspired by others, but inspiration is different from comparison. Inspiration says, if they can do it, maybe I can too. Comparison says, they're ahead and I'm behind. One uplifts you, the other destroys you. Choose wisely. And remember, your journey isn't only about reaching the destination. It's about who you become along the way, the strength you build, the lessons you collect, the self-respect you earn by continuing to show up even when no one's watching. So if you've been comparing yourself lately, stop. Take a breath. Look at your own lane. Ask yourself, what am I doing better than I did yesterday? That's your real competition, the past version of you. Beat that person and you're winning. Never forget, your story is unique, your pace is perfect, and your journey is unfolding exactly as it should. Trust it, own it, walk it proudly, even if no one else understands it. Lesson 6. Surround yourself with growth-minded people. Sometimes the weight of failure doesn't just come from the fall itself. It comes from the people around you, the ones who laughed when you stumbled, the ones who said, I told you so, the ones who smiled to your face but quietly celebrated your loss. And if you've ever gone through that, I want you to hear this loud and clear. You deserve to be around people who believe in your rise, not those who enjoy your fall. After a failure, your mindset is fragile, your confidence is shaky, and in that vulnerable space, the voices around you matter more than ever. If those voices are filled with doubt, negativity, and small thinking, they'll drown out the little whisper of hope you're trying so hard to keep alive inside you. That's why it's not just helpful, it's essential to surround yourself with people who are growth-minded. So, what does that mean? Growth-minded people are the ones who see failure not as the end, but as a step. They're the ones who ask you, what did you learn? Instead of, why did you mess up? They encourage you to try again, not sit still. They celebrate effort, not just results. And when you're struggling, they don't shame you. They sit beside you in the dark until you're strong enough to stand up again. I remember a time after one of my biggest failures when I completely isolated myself. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I felt like a disappointment. But one evening, an old friend called me out of nowhere. I almost didn't answer, but something inside said, just pick up. She didn't say anything magical. She just listened. No judgment, no fake positivity, just honest support. That conversation didn't fix everything, but it reminded me I wasn't alone. And that reminder changed everything. The truth is, we all need people who see more in us than we see in ourselves. People who remind us who we are when we've forgotten. People who challenge us to rise without making us feel small. And if you don't have those people in your life yet, go find them. Seek out communities, mentors, online groups, or even books and podcasts that feed your mind with strength instead of fear. There's a saying that you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If that's true, and trust me, it is, then ask yourself, who am I becoming because of the people around me? Do they inspire me, push me, or do they drain me and keep me stuck? Growth-minded people don't always tell you what you want to hear, but they always tell you what you need to hear. They'll call you out when you're playing small. They'll remind you that you have more inside you than you're using.
and they'll never let your story end at the moment of failure. Instead, they'll help you rewrite the next chapter.
Surrounding yourself with the right people also helps you build resilience. Because when life hits you hard and you feel like giving up, those voices, the right voices, will become the bridge between who you are and who you're trying to become. They'll speak belief into you until you can believe in yourself again. And here's the beautiful part. It's not a one-way street. As you grow, you'll become that voice for someone else. You'll be the reason another person doesn't give up. You'll be the proof that failure doesn't have the final say. Growth does. Sometimes, surrounding yourself with growth-minded people means walking away from those who aren't. And that's hard, especially when it's friends or even family who don't get it. But choosing your future over familiar comfort is an act of courage. You're not being selfish, you're being wise. You're protecting your peace, your energy, and your potential. Letting go doesn't mean you hate them. It just means you're ready to grow. And growth requires space, support, and the right soil. So if you're rebuilding after failure, don't do it alone. You weren't meant to. Find your tribe. Build your circle. Whether it's one person or 5, surround yourself with voices that remind you who you are and who you can still become. Because in the end, success isn't just about what you do. It's also about who walks with you while you do it. Lesson 7. Stay consistent even when it hurts. This is the part no one claps for, the part no one sees. The early mornings when your heart still feels heavy. The late nights when your mind won't stop overthinking. The quiet moments when you wonder if anything you're doing is even working. This is the messy middle, where most people give up. But if you want to overcome failure, really overcome it, you have to keep showing up, even when it hurts. Consistency isn't about perfection. It's about commitment. It's saying, even though I don't feel strong today, I'm going to take one small step forward anyway. It's choosing to keep going when the emotion screams stop. Because the truth is, healing and rebuilding don't always feel like motivation. They often feel like resistance, like doubt, like fatigue. But every day you stay consistent, you prove to yourself that your comeback is real. Not just a thought, but a decision. I remember a time after one of my biggest setbacks when I made a quiet promise to myself. No matter how I felt, I would do one thing every single day that pushed me forward. Just one. Some days it was sending an email. Other days it was writing a paragraph, listening to a podcast, or just going for a walk to clear my head. These weren't massive actions, but they were consistent. And over time, those small steps began to stack up. My confidence returned. My energy shifted. My belief started growing again. Not because everything got easier, but because I didn't quit when it was hard. Most people wait to feel motivated before they act. But here's the truth. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. You don't wait to feel ready. You get ready by doing. And the more you do, the stronger you become. Think about athletes. The ones who succeed don't just train when they feel like it. They train in the rain, in pain, in exhaustion, because they know what you do when no one's watching is what shapes who you become when everyone finally is. Staying consistent when it hurts also teaches you something powerful: emotional discipline. That means learning to keep your promises to yourself, even when your emotions try to talk you out of it. Because let's be honest, your emotions are unpredictable. One day they'll lift you up, the next they'll pull you down. But consistency is the anchor that holds you steady through the emotional storm. There's a story I love about a man who lost everything in his business. He had every reason to quit, but instead, every morning he wrote down 5 small things he could do that day to rebuild.
Sometimes it was making a phone call. Sometimes it was just brainstorming ideas. He did this for 300 days straight. And on day 301, he got an opportunity that changed everything. Was it magic? No. It was consistency. Quiet, steady, painful, but powerful. You have to understand, your future self is watching you. The version of you that's healed, successful, and thriving, they're cheering for you to keep going. But you only meet that version if you walk through this hard part. If you keep building on the days you want to disappear. If you keep moving when it feels like nothing's working. Because it is working. You just can't see it yet. The roots of a tree grow deep underground long before you ever see the leaves. That's what consistency is. Underground growth. Invisible progress. It might not look like much now, but one day you'll look back and realize that's when everything was changing. And yes, it will hurt sometimes. Yes, you'll have setbacks. Yes, there'll be days when progress feels impossibly slow. But every time you show up despite the pain, you're rewriting your story. You're becoming the person who doesn't fold under pressure, who doesn't stop at the sting of failure, who keeps going even with a bruised heart. That's the kind of person who wins. Not the perfect one, not the lucky one, the relentless one. So whatever you're facing right now, promise yourself you'll stay consistent. Promise yourself you won't disappear into the shadows. Even if all you can manage today is one tiny step, take it. Because tiny steps, taken consistently, will take you further than bursts of energy that fade. Stay in the fight. Show up. Keep moving. Even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. That's how you turn your failure into your greatest comeback. Final reflection. What I learned from failing. Looking back, I can honestly say that failure didn't destroy me, it revealed me. It showed me who I was when things didn't go my way. It stripped away my ego, my comfort zones, and every illusion I had about success being easy. It made me uncomfortable, unsure, raw, but it also made me real. For the first time, I had to rebuild myself from the inside out. And in that quiet, broken space, I found strength I didn't know I had. I learned that failure isn't final. It's feedback. It's a whisper from life saying, there's a better way. Keep digging. I learned that growth doesn't happen when everything is going right. It happens when nothing seems to be working and you still decide to show up. I learned that I don't have to have it all figured out to begin again. I just have to believe that my story isn't over. And maybe that's what you needed to hear today, that your story is far from finished, that failure is not your identity, it's your instructor, that even now, even here, you can start writing a new chapter, not from perfection, but from courage. So don't give up on yourself. Don't let one bad moment define a whole life. Keep fighting. Keep rising. Keep becoming. If this message touched your heart, if you saw even a piece of yourself in these words, then don't walk away empty. Subscribe to Mind-Blowing Motive for more life-changing lessons in simple, clear, emotional English. We're not just teaching you how to grow, we're growing with you. Every video is made to inspire not only your mind, but also your heart, with real talk, relatable stories, and powerful ideas to help you level up in life. Until next time, stay brave, stay kind, and most of all, stay in the fight. Your best days haven't happened yet, but they will. And we'll be right here to walk with you, step by step,